October 2025 was easily my best reading month in a really long time. I dived right into the spooky season reading as a result of my Bewitched Book challenge and had a really good time with it. So let's see how I fared in my own challenge, make some review pages in my reading journal for all of the books that I completed in October, and I'll tell you exactly what I thought of every one of those books too. And to wrap it all up, we'll also take a look at my October reading stats. Hi, I'm Erin, and I really love books that have magic involved in some way, which is why October is my favourite time of year for reading. If you've been following my reading journal adventures throughout the year, you may know that this journal started falling apart on me not too long ago. It's doing a lot better now. I performed some journal surgery on it, and the spine is definitely in better condition than it was before I did that, so very happy to report. Let's start by updating all of those beginning of journal trackers, especially this one, which is just a list of all of the books that I've read so far this year. We left off at the end of September at 47 books for 2025, but I have quite a few to add, which is very satisfying. I'm doing a thing at the moment where I choose one of my fountain pens and I ink it up in a colour that kind of represents the month for me. I'm trying to romanticize the seasons a little bit, and because I live in Australia where it is currently spring, and to match with my everyday planning journal, I've gone with this combo. The pen is a fountain pen I bought in York in England when I was on holiday last year. It's from Hand Turn Pens, and I've inked it up with Wieringal's Jane Eyre. Just in case you aren't familiar with my Bewitched Book Challenge, which is now an annual book challenge tradition that I am going to continue into the future because it's so much fun. Part of the challenge that you could use to get some bonus points was choosing your books based on suggestions from my book club, the Page Mages. I took quite a bit of inspiration from that list in choosing my own reads for October. I would say the majority of the books I finished in October were from the Page Mages reading list, which is really lovely. Over the past several months, I've been averaging around about 4 to 5 books a month as my typical reading speed number of books that I can accomplish in a month. This one for October felt like a flashback to last year where my average was more like 8 to 11 books per month. If you are interested in my book club, make sure you check out the join link down in the description or underneath the video. Our November book is This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abe-Sakara, and there's still time to join in on the discussion over on Discord if you want to get involved. That's all of the beginning of journal yearly overview trackers updated, so let's switch over to my October dashboard spread and bring this up to date as well. The calendar page on the left is for tracking the beginning and end dates of books just to get a visual representation of how long things took me to read and where they fell in the month. And the right page is an overview of the book covers of all of the books that I've read in the month, including any that I chose not to finish typically as well, or any that I didn't get to finish that are flowing into the following month. And I really like to include my star ratings and also my peach ratings on this page as well, so I can get an idea of which books really hit and which books kind of didn't. I usually like to try to match the markers I use on the calendar to the colours of the theme, and I literally only own one orange marker, and it's an acrylic paint marker, so that's why it is so incredibly vibrant in comparison to the Tombow Jewel Rush pens that I usually gravitate towards. And I'm adding the names of each book on top of their stripe of colour that represents them on the calendar too. I'm using the Tom Studio Ren pen for that, and I've just got it inked up with the regular Tom Studio black ink. We're going to be using a lot of pens, a lot of stickers, some washi tapes, that kind of thing later on in this video, so if anything you see catches your eye, check out the links in the description. I will have linked you to as many of them as I possibly can. It's not always possible to link to everything. Sometimes things go out of stock, or like my fountain pen maybe were one of a kind, so I'll only link you to the things that are available, but I'll let you know if things are no longer available too. Also, if you're curious about my book cover stickers, I have a video about how I make these. I'll have that linked for you below as well. I use my home inkjet printer to print them out on sticker paper, and I cut them with my Cricut Explore 3, but you could still follow most of the steps in my video and just print them and cut them out with scissors if you'd prefer. You just need to substitute the Cricut software for something like word processing software in order to size the book covers to whatever size you want them to be. Before we go any further, I have a question for you, and that question is, what was your favourite read in October? I always get so many wonderful book recommendations from you guys in the comments on my reading journal videos especially, and I love that, so please keep them coming. I want to know what you're loving. My book cover page is starting to look a little bit bottom heavy because I do still have a couple of book covers to add to it, but that's okay. I have a workaround to be able to still use the space here. I'm going to put my last book cover down. I've actually got one more to do, but I hadn't printed and cut it yet at this stage, so we'll have to add it later. But I didn't have room for my star rating, so I'm adding it to my corner of my sticker paper instead, just cutting that out with some scissors, and I'm going to stick that right over the top of the spiderweb washi tape down the bottom. Also, if you're digging that spiderweb washi tape or anything else in the October theme, make sure you check out last month's reading journal video to see all of the stuff that I used for that. And now it's time to talk books. But for my first 2 book reviews, I'm actually going to do my minimalist book review setup here because these ones I either didn't have the stationery for or didn't enjoy enough to warrant giving them a really pretty decorated page. Starting with Slaying the Shifter Prince by Clare Sager. I have actually talked about this book a little bit on the channel already in a recent video that was all about the Bookish and Spice special edition subscription book boxes. And that's because this book came in one of those book boxes as I was testing it out, and so I read it as part of the review. This book is a spicy fantasy romance centered around our main character Zita, who is an aerial performer, absolutely hell-bent on killing the prince because she believes that he killed her sister. This is another Beauty and the Beast fantasy retelling. I don't know how many of those we really need, except this one puts the twist on it that he takes her as his pet rather than just his prisoner. And I'm not going to say that if you've read one fantasy romance, you've read them all, because that's definitely not the case, but I feel like you would know where this one's going to go. I did this one on audiobook despite having a physical copy in my house, and I found it to be tolerable. I found it to be passable. I didn't find it to be like hair pulling out levels of bad writing or anything, which some of the other books in that book subscription kind of did that to me. This one I found just settled at pretty mid. The writing was a little clumsy, but nothing too terrible. They used the word canted so much, like every few sentences somebody canted their head. Got really sick of that one. But the story did actually surprise me a few times, which I really wasn't expecting. And I have to give it props for having a shifter character who turns into some form of cat. That just tickles me. I've had to reevaluate my rating on this one a few times to really think about it, but I've settled on 2.6 on my Peach rating scale, which I'm rounding down to 2.5 stars. This was not the next book that I finished chronologically in the month, but this is the one I'm going to put here because it's the next book that I don't really want to set up a decorated spread for. And that's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I must preface this by saying I really struggle to read classic novels from different social contexts and time periods. I am very happy to be alive today despite everything, and I absolutely recognize that this was a really impactful book. It was very important historically. It challenged the way Victorian people viewed the world, and I respect it for that, and I recognize that it has value. I just also didn't really enjoy it. Also worth noting, I'm not really a horror reader at the best of times, and I didn't actually know anything about this story going in. I don't know how that's possible, but I knew the name of the book and I didn't know anything else. So I was really going in with very fresh eyes, or maybe fresh ears, because I listened to the Audible original audiobook version of this one. My takeaways were, wow, everyone do be obsessed with this young man, a little bit creepy. Everyone do be awful people. Lord Henry, really looking at you here. And Russell Tovey is an excellent narrator. I know we're not supposed to like the people in this story, and I definitely don't. It's just not what I look for out of my fiction reading experience, you know. I like it when they're good people. But I did enjoy the cultural experience that was reading a classic, because that was something on my bingo, which I will forget to fill out in this video. Sorry about that. We will do it in the next reading journal video for sure. Anyway, I gave The Picture of Dorian Gray 2.8 on my Peach rating scale, which I rounded down to 2.75 for the sake of cleanness of star ratings. What's the Peach rating scale, you ask? It is a book rating system that I came up with about a year ago and named after my cat. There's a video about it here that goes quite in depth in case you're interested, but basically each of the letters of Peach stands for something that I rate the book by out of 5, and then I tally those all up and work out what the total score is and divide that by 5 to get my star rating. So Peach actually stands for plot, enjoyment, artistry, characters, and heart. And this next book is one that scored high across all of those categories. This was actually my highest rated book for the month. And if you've watched any of my reading journal videos from this year, you are probably not surprised by that because I can't stop banging on about Brigid Kemmerer and her wonderful books. This one is Defend the Dawn. It is the second book in the Defy the Night trilogy, and as much as I loved all of the books that I read this month, or even though I didn't necessarily love them all, but I loved the experience of reading all of the spooky books. Even when I was really, really loving a book, I was secretly a little bit wishing that I was just reading the sequel to this one instead because I couldn't stop thinking about it. These books are so difficult to discuss without giving away spoilers because big things start happening really early on in the first book, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone, so what can I tell you? They're fantasy books, but this fantasy world doesn't have magic. It just has really deep, believable, real flawed characters. And I am a pretty character-driven reader, so I thrive in this environment. The kingdom we're dropped into in this story is really, really suffering from a fever. And I'm not going to make the cowbell joke again, don't worry. There is a treatment. It's an elixir made out of this moonflower. I used the same tape to represent the moonflower on the previous book's page as with this one, and I'm probably going to use whatever's left on the next one as well for continuity. But basically, whoever has the moonflower, whoever controls the supply, has the power in this society, and they desperately need more. Just like the first book, this one is also dual points of view. We're following Tessa, who is a young rebel. She's an apothecary, and she believes that the officials are using too much moonflower in their elixir, and that it could get to more people if they were more sparing about the way that they made their elixir. And our other point of view is Corrick, and he is the prince, and he is also the king's justice. So he's the guy who enacts revenge whenever somebody has done something wrong in his kingdom. And suddenly this dude comes sailing into town who's like, hey, I'm from out of town. I'm from one of the islands that you guys don't know about. And we have stacks of moonflower, but we want your resources too. Come meet our king and negotiate. And that means this book is not just a fun fantasy story like in the first one, it escalates into a fun swashbuckly kind of piratey sort of story. It's so much fun. I felt like I was playing Wind Waker again. There is something about Brigid Kemmerer's writing, and I don't think that she's a particularly florid purple prose kind of an author, but there is something about her writing that is just so unputdownable to me. I was hooked. I stayed up late reading this many, many nights. I do feel like the characters went a bit wishy-washy on me in this one, and so I've given them a 4 out of 5 rather than something higher, but overall rating 22 out of 25 on the Peach scale, which means this one is 4.4, so I'm rounding up to 4.5 stars, my highest rating for October. I haven't got to start on the third one yet, but I definitely want to read it in November. Hopefully I will get the chance to, because I do have a couple of book club books and things that I need to prioritize first, but I really am itching to get back to this series. I forgot the in the title. Let me just add that quickly. And then we'll move on to the next one, which is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. Funnily enough, this one is also the second book in a series. These ones are paranormal romance. The series is called Graves Glen, and the first book is called The X-Hex, and it was actually on our Page Majors reading list for the Bewitched Book Challenge. I read that one a few years ago, and I remember that I really, really liked it. I enjoyed this one less, and I don't know if that's because I've read quite a bit of romance in between those two books, and I have developed more of a taste for what I like, and this is less in line with what I'm enjoying now, or if it was just not as good a book, I'm not sure. In my opinion, of course, these are always just my opinions, and opinions about books are supposed to be different from one person to the next, so please don't be offended if I don't enjoy a book that you love. I'm not trying to judge you. You're allowed to like things that I don't like. In fact, I think that makes life more interesting. And actually, I didn't dislike this book. I thought it was fun. I just felt like it was more of a palate cleanser kind of a read for me than it was something that I really could get into and sink my teeth into and really enjoy. Actually, this is probably a good one if you aren't feeling like you want something with really high stakes, if you want something, I don't know if I'd say that it's cozy. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it is cozy. It's a small town paranormal romance, which that in itself sounds like it's quite cozy, doesn't it? Our female protagonist, Wynne, owns a magic shop, and she is a witch, but the magic shop is kind of like, oh, magic's not real. What do you mean? It's gimmicky stuff. It's kind of cute. She has a cat that talks that says Halloween. Have to chaotically interrupt myself for a second because I'm about to use some stickers that are from the STICKII Pop Advent Calendar, and if you are not wanting spoilers, you should look away now. Just treat me as a podcast until we talk about the next book. And our male main character, his name is Wells, short for Llewellyn, and he's been sent to town by his overbearing father to try and take control of magic in the region, I think is the objective, although he's kind of just there for the vibes. And he also opens a magic shop across the road from Gwyn's, so they're rivals. Guess what the pipeline is? Could it be rivals to lovers? We'll have to read and find out. Of course it is, it's romance, but this one felt a little surface level to me. I didn't feel like the characters were three-dimensional people. They felt a little bit cartoon character-ish to me, but the vibes were good. It was a fun time. It gets a little bit spicy, so just be warned if you're not into that. Tonally, it's kind of similar to A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. If you've read that book or any of the others from that series, they're just very low stakes kind of paranormal romance. They're a fun time, but for me, they do kind of lack heart, and heart is something that's really important to me in my books, and that's why it's part of my rating system. The gorgeous pink washi tape I've used at the top and bottom of this page is from Notebook Therapy. It's from their Moonlit Blush washi tape set, which they don't seem to have anymore. Hopefully they'll bring it back. It's gorgeous. And kindly block your ears, Sticky Advent Calendar spoiler avoiders, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the stickers that I used. I just thought these adorable little magician cats were the perfect touch. Like, they're wearing little witches' hats. They've got little capes on. One of them looks like Mr. Mistopheles. I just think it's really adorable. It felt like it fit the tone of the book to me, so that's why I've gone with those little stickers. And I had a little bit of space left over at the bottom of the page. I'd kind of put down all of the thoughts that I wanted to record, so I'm going to fill that in with some more stickers from the vintage Sticky Advent Calendar. This one's actually day 1. I believe they are sold out now, the Sticky Advent Calendars, but usually after they're kind of no longer available as the calendars anymore, they put whatever leftover stock they have on the site as individual sticker sheets, and they're not available yet either, but like, keep an eye out, I guess, if you like the look of any of these and didn't get an advent calendar. I'm giving the Kiss Curse 3.5 for basically everything across the board for my peach rating system, a 3 for heart, and that's going to take me to 17 out of 25, which is 3.4 as my star rating, which I'll just knock up to 3.5 to make it nice and clean. Making sure I flip back to my October dashboard spread every time and update the star rating there as well, so I have all that data on one page. Then we're going to head forward to our next blank page and set up our next book review page. And this one I think is my favorite visually of all of the ones in this setup. I just love the way this one turns out. This black washi tape with the candles and flowers and things on is from Journal Say as part of a set, although I think you probably can get them individually. You usually can. This gorgeous bookshelf is from Paper Monogatari, but I've actually decided after a little bit of trial and error here that I don't have room for it on the page the way I wanted to use it, but it will also suit another book coming up soon, so don't worry, we can move it and still use it for something a little bit later on. This tape with the text on it is also from Paper Monogatari. It has the letter to Elizabeth from Mr. Darcy on it. It's so lovely. The book we're about to review is called A Dark and Secret Magic, and it is by Wallis Kinney. It was another one from the suggestion list by the page majors for the Bewitched Book Challenge. Just going to move these bookshelves over here so they're ready for me when I need them in a moment. But also one of my favorite book readers who makes YouTube videos about books sometimes also recommended this video a while ago, and I've had it on my list for a little bit. So it was good to be able to read a book that had been recommended to me in a few different ways. And one of the prompts for the Bewitched Book Challenge was a book with the word dark in the title, so this was perfect for that prompt. This lovely illuminated letter washi tape is from Journal Say as well. I've had this one before and loved it so much I got it again. I'm using it as essentially a drop capital here, so I'm going to put the first letter of each word in the sticker and then stamp the rest. And typically I like to use paint markers with my stamps, but because I've been using my ink pad for all of my star ratings all the way through already, it was already out on my desk and I was feeling lazy, so I'm just going to use that for this time instead. The way I've placed the words on the page does kind of make it look, once it's all done, like I've written A Dark and Secret Wallis Kinney Magic, which was unintentional, obviously, to have the author's name become part of the title of the book, but I think the overall effect once the whole page is set up is really, really cute, so I've decided I don't even mind. Look how well our decorations match with the book cover. I love when it comes together like this. That's just so cute. Oh, and if you like the look of the Peach book rating stickers that I have made for myself, those are available as a free sign-up perk when you sign up to my notebook and novel newsletter, which I have been admittedly really terrible about updating lately. But if you subscribe to the newsletter, you can get those as a free downloadable and have your own Peach rating stickers if you like. So if the Kiss Curse felt a little bit surface level to me, A Dark and Secret Magic was exactly what I was looking for. It's still a paranormal romance, but I feel like this one has so much depth, so much heart. These characters are so believable and full and 3D to me. This one is a single point of view, and we're following a witch whose name is Hecate, but she goes by Kate to her friends. It's coming up on her 30th birthday, which coincides with Halloween, and she is a hedge witch. She was pledged so from young by her mother in a society where the witches usually choose their own calling, but for some reason her mum was like, no, Hecate is going to be a hedge witch, she doesn't get a say. And she's going to go through a ritual on her 30th birthday that kind of gets rid of her extra magic so she can just focus on her specialty. Until this really attractive necromancer called Matthew shows up on her doorstep one night seeking shelter with the hedge witch, which is something that she is obligated to provide as a hedge witch. I said when I was talking about A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping that it's the book that will give you the practical magic vibes if you read Practical Magic and were like, what did I just read? This is another one of those. It was really, really lovely. I'm giving it a flat 4 stars, although I'm thinking a little bit in my mind, maybe emotionally, my response is to give it a little bit more than that. I may need to re-rate that one, we'll see. But for now, 4 stars. Very solid. Let's move on to another very solid book that's going to get a good rating out of me. This one is Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. This one is so interesting. We've got the coolest representation of death as a character that I have ever seen, and I'm a Discworld girly. I've seen me some cool death. Wow, what a sentence. Anyway, this one is a gothic story. We've got a historical 19th century setting. We've got a little bit of that like Regency Victorian proper girls have to do tea kind of vibe. And our main character and narrator, Signa, can see death and ghosts. She grows up absolutely scorning death because she thinks it is his fault that she is always losing the people around her. They are always passing away. They aren't always the best people though. And as Signa's parents died when she was young, she's being shuttled from one carer to another as people blink out of existence, unfortunately, until she is finally sent to live with her cousins in a big affluent mansion where their mother, her aunt, has recently passed away, and wouldn't you know it, there are ghosts and death is always hanging around. Signa has discovered that by doing things that would kill other people, they never seem to kill her. Things like, chewing on a bunch of belladonna berries, hence the book title. She can pass enough into the realm of the dead that she can talk to death whenever she wants. She can essentially summon him, and she can also use some of his powers, which is quite curious. This book is just such a good time. It's got some really great adventure and mystery elements going on. It's got romance. This one is not a spicy story. I would say this is probably YA. I just found it really page-turning, really enjoyable, and I am definitely going to be continuing the series. Shall we talk stationery for this spread? I believe that black washi tape over on the left side is from the Notebook Therapy Lucky Bag from last year, I think, but don't hold me to that. It could be from something else. I've started to lose track, honestly. The beautiful blue and purple rose washi tape is a really recent acquisition of mine from Bloomsicle Paper Co. It's from their very new Midnight Reader collection. My cat Mitsu likes it so much he's going to come up and have a look at it himself. Those black swirly gold shiny stickers down the right side there are from Journal Say. I use those to kind of represent how death extends his shadows. In this one, he's a bit of a shadow daddy. We love to see it. That frame in the bottom left is also from Journal Say, and all of the other stickers are from Sticky, the skulls with the candles and stuff, and also that awesome rendition of the skull with the hand over the woman's eyes. I've had that one in my collection for so long, and I just thought this was incredibly perfect. Originally, I was going to try and have the skull pop out in front of the frame, but it was too difficult, so I just stuck it down. This book was also on our Page Majors reading list, and I have to give the biggest shout out to my Page Majors who helped me compile that list. They gave me so many wonderful suggestions. I ended up narrowing it down to just 3 per category, but my book club members have incredible taste. Oh, and this extra washi tape down the bottom here is also from the Midnight Reader set from Bloomsicle Paper Co. They're an Aussie-based stationery company, well worth a look. Almost the same scores across the board for Belladonna as A Dark and Secret Magic, but this one just pulled ahead by the tiniest little bit, 4.1, so I'm still doing a 4-star rating here. But if we were going to rank all the books that I read in October, this one would be in number 2. Here's another sticky pop advent warning. This sticker sheet is all about la 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 la. Are you not listening now? Okay, cool. Books, which feel right at home on the page with my Paper Monogatari bookshelf washi tape from earlier that we rehomed, and could not be more perfect because the book that we are going to be reviewing next is Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Törzs, and books and a very specific library are a huge theme of this story. Perfect fit for one of our book challenge prompts as well, which was a book about books or libraries. This one, I believe, falls under the umbrella of magical realism. It's a little bit more serious, a little bit more literary maybe than the other books that I've gravitated towards this month. This is one of those third-person books with a few different storylines that then kind of draw into each other, and everything starts to become clear as you go through. We're following 2 sisters, Joanna and Esther, who have been estranged for a while after the death of their father, who had his life sucked out of him by a magic book. He spent his lifetime collecting and studying and treasuring these magic books, and so it was a bit of a shock to everyone when it was that killed him. And Joanna has taken on the role of protecting the books in his place, while her sister Esther has run basically all over the world to try to get away from her former life. And then completely separately to these 2 sisters, we have Nicholas's story, and he is someone who is able to write these magic books with his own blood. Mysterious forces are at play that mean that all of these people end up working together on a mission that can be quite deadly and scary at times. This book reminded me a little bit of the Book of Doors, which we read for our Page Majors book club way back in, I think that was May. So if you've read the Book of Doors and you liked it, I would definitely recommend this one as well. I didn't feel that it was so much my cup of tea. Again, I didn't not enjoy it, but I also felt like there were some things that weren't my vibe. I don't feel like we got a lot of character depth here. Even though I learned a lot about the characters, I still don't really feel like I know who they are. I also felt like the tone of the book, the writing style was kind of dry. Funnily enough, this story and also the Book of Doors, both of them while I was reading, I was thinking, this would be such a great movie. I would love to see this turned into a movie. Because sometimes it's easier to see things play out visually than it is on a page, even though obviously with words you can make anything play out if you have the right words. But this one I just feel, for me, would make a better movie. I did have a couple of moments where I considered not finishing this one, but it did hook me enough to make me stick around all the way to the end. And it also did surprise me quite a few times. There were some twists in this one that I did not see coming. For me, anything that is like a 3 or above is a book that I have at least somewhat enjoyed. And on my Peach rating system for this one, I'm going to give it 3.2 stars. Once again, this is your early warning system for the Sticky Advent Calendar Pop spoiler alert. We're going to do a review page for a book I've been meaning to read for a really long time, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Dianna Wynne Jones. Something you should probably know about me before we get into this is that I'm not really a Studio Ghibli person. I've seen some of the movies and I've liked some of them. I really like Spirited Away, but they're not something I come back to over and over like a lot of people, and I'd actually never seen Howl's Moving Castle, the Studio Ghibli movie. So I went into this with zero expectations, which a lot of people were like, oh, it's really different to the movie. And I was like, cool, I have no frame of reference, that's fine. I have actually since watched the movie after I finished reading the book for comparison purposes, and I see why everyone was like, wow, what the heck, if they did it in reverse and watched the movie first and then read the book. But I did think there were enough similarities that I was like, yeah, this is still recognizable as the IP, you know? I'm pretty sure I read some Dianna Wynne Jones when I was in school, although I don't remember which of her books I read, but I'm fairly certain this was not one of them, and I have been meaning to read this for a really long time just based on the hype around it. This is YA fantasy, and our protagonist Sophie is the oldest of 3 sisters. When their father passes away and they are left with their stepmother and the hattery, the hat shop that their dad owned, the younger girls are sent off to new vocations, and Sophie keeps working in the hat shop, talking to the hats she makes as she makes them because she's so lonely. Sometimes the things that she says to the hat become true for the people who then buy and wear the hats, until one day Sophie unfortunately finds the Witch of the Waste in her shop who curses Sophie and turns her into an old woman. Sophie's like, well, I can't let anyone see me like this, they won't recognize me, they won't understand, so she runs away and in the process stumbles across this castle that's hovering above the ground. Everyone in town knows about Wizard Howl and how he woos young women and then eats their hearts. But Sophie is desperate for shelter and she's like, well, I'm an old woman now anyway, what's he want with me? And she tries to find a way into the castle, and that's all I'm going to tell you for now. This book was published in 1986, and it is wild to read 1986 fantasy in 2025. This book is weird. I did have a pretty good time with it though, not good enough to ever read it again, I don't think, and not good enough to try and continue with the series. If it is a series, is it a series? But I still gave it 3.7, so not quite 4 stars, rounding that up to 3 3/4. Some of the decisions the characters make in this book make absolutely no sense to me, and to be honest, the ending sort of made no sense to me as well. I'm not going to tell you why, because that would be spoilery, but just I didn't get it. I have since watched the movie and I can see why so many people do prefer it, especially the character of Howl. He seems to be a lot more endearing in the movie than he was in the book, but this was a fun educational time and I don't regret it a bit. 3.7 stars for Howl's Moving Castle. And then we've only got one book review left to do for the month of October, and this one is non-fiction, which is unusual for me, but it was one of our Bewitched Book Challenge prompts, so I read a non-fiction book. But I'm going to set up another space space for another minimal book review next to this, so it's just ready to go the next time I need one as well. And the non-fiction book I read was one of our Page Majors suggestion list. It is The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben. This book is fascinating, but also as a not very good plant parent, somebody who has been a serial plant killer most of their life, it's also very confronting. I learned so much about trees from this book, which I guess you would expect, but like, did you know that trees communicate with each other? Because I didn't know that. Did you know that when trees are in pain or dying, they kind of scream in their own way? Oh, I found that quite horrifying, because then I think of my poor plants that I have harmed in the past and I'm like, were you screaming that whole time? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was a really entertaining book to listen to, actually. I did this one on audiobook. It was delivered in kind of a David Attenborough kind of entertaining but also educational way. I didn't find it to be too dry. It made me laugh a few times, which I really enjoyed, of course. And for only the second time this year, I got to bust out my Mitsu rating system stickers, which is my rating system for non-fiction books, although I don't read non-fiction all that often, so I had to refer back to my cheat sheet card to remember what everything stood for one thing. And also, if you read a lot of non-fiction, you'll probably be able to refine the system a little bit better. Obviously, not all non-fiction is the same, like a biography is going to be different to something like this. It's going to be different to like a self-help book or something again, so I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was really fascinating. So those are all the books I read in October. I did start reading one more, and that's Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, but I didn't finish it in October, so we're not going to talk about it in this video. You'll have to stick around for the November one. When I set up my October pages, I left myself space to calculate my totals for my Bewitched Book challenge in 2 different ways, because I created some difficulty levels for this challenge. I knew there was no way I was going to be able to get anywhere on the most difficult version of the challenge, so I made these pages for the medium and the easy difficulty levels, and I figured I'd just calculate my scores for both of those and just see what happens. This spread is for the Twin Sigil, which is the medium difficulty level, and the way this one works is that I can apply each of my books to 2 of my charm prompts for my spellbook over there on the left. I had actually sat down and done this separately before I started filming, but I had calculated things a little bit wrong. So I had printed out my seals, my like achievement seal sticker that I was going to put on the page for the level that I thought I'd got to. And then I realized I'd given myself bonus points for the Kiss Curse, which was not actually on our Page Majors reading list. The prequel, well, not prequel, the first one in the series was the X-Hex, but not this one. So I needed to recalculate, and it meant that I came out at a different score, and I actually hadn't printed the stickers for that. And at this point, I did all of this in one go, actually. I usually, reading this many books, would set this up over a few separate days, but I'd left it all until the end of the month because I didn't think I would read this much. So I had a lot to do. And by that point, I was just done. I didn't want to print more stickers, use a whole sheet of paper for, 2 small stickers. So I just didn't add those ones. I'll do them next month, maybe, if I remember. I definitely planned a little bit going into the challenge, and I did read almost all of the books that I had set for myself as a little like challenge TBR maybe next list. But I didn't totally plan books to go for all of the charms. I didn't have specific spells in mind that I was going to try and attack. I just kind of let the chips fall where they may and then slotted in the books wherever I felt like they fit really well or could be best wielded to achieve maximum points. And I came out okay, I've actually just realized while recording this voiceover that I read my own rules reference a little bit wrong here when I tallied up all of my points. I came out to 64 points for the Twin Sigil over here, which should put me into High Witch territory, but I have somehow read my own rules wrong and assigned myself to Practitioner, which is why I didn't put the sticker down. I did actually print the High Witch sticker, and then I thought I'd done it wrong, and so I wrote Practitioner here, and I misspelled it as well, which is kind of funny, but I thought I'd go ahead and do the Triple Sigil one as well. We're just going to speed through it because it's the exact same process. I think I just didn't apply these as well for the Triple Sigil. Some of the books applied really well to some prompts but not others, and I didn't find it as easy to kind of finagle them into things. And so I've ended up with less points actually for the Triple Sigil than I did for the Twin Sigil. I don't know if I've just tallied it wrong though. It's possible. I was pretty tired by this point in the setup, so it's possible I was just like, whatever, I don't care anymore. But I'm so happy with my score for the Twin Sigil difficulty level that I don't really care what I get for Triple anymore anyway, so we don't really need to worry about it. If you also joined in the Bewitched Book Challenge, I'd love to know down in the comments which sigil you joined in on, which difficulty level, and also what your achievement level was too. It would be really cool to hear what our witchy ranks are. And we've only got one thing left to do for this video, and that is fill out my October reading stats, which I always pull directly from Storygraph. I've actually planned the reading stats around the stats that Storygraph gives you automatically every month, so I can just scroll through their end of month wrap up things and just copy things down directly. The only thing is you have to make sure that you're logging your books really accurately within Storygraph, so you're choosing the correct format so that it gives you the right format information. You're telling it when you start and finish a book. I'm not so precious about updates while I'm reading, but start and finish dates I think are pretty important for me. And of course, adding your star rating when you finish reading so it can give you your average ratings and things like that is pretty useful too. So in October, I completed 9 books. I'm really proud of that effort, and I don't think I'll be able to do it again in November, but gosh, I had a good time. I read 1,355 pages and listened to 57.57 hours of audiobook. My average rating was 3.56. On average, it took me 6 days to finish a book. And I'm quite proud of how varied my genre list is for October, because I thought it was going to be way more narrow than this. Fantasy all the way at the top, and romance, of course, and then we've got classics, LGBTQIA+, young adult, middle grade? I guess that one must be Howl's Moving Castle, nature, magical realism, literary, horror, and contemporary. My standout book for the month was Defend the Dawn by Brigid, Kemmerer, and I do intend to put a book cover here eventually, but I also might forget, so please remind me if I do. 2/3 of the books I read were on audiobook and 1/3 was digital this month. I had a very unusual 11% non-fiction versus my 89% fiction. Usually it is all fiction. And 2/3 of the books I sourced through the library versus the other third I bought in some way. And so it is time for us to flip through it all from start to finish. Ordinarily, I would also include the pages for November in this video, but I thought we'd try something a little bit different this time, and I'm going to include them in next month's video at the beginning, and then we'll use them. Don't forget to tell me in the comments what your favorite read of October was. I am so keen to hear, and I hope maybe you got some recommendations for your own future reading from this video too. I also want to hear all about your adventures with the Bewitched Book Challenge. I want to hear which achievement level you reached. I want to know which books you read. I want to know all of it, and I definitely want to bring the challenge back for next year. Thank you so much for talking books with me. I have a whole new reading journal set up coming really soon to the channel, so please stay tuned if you're keen to see that. I'm moving from the square to a B5 for 2026, and I'm very excited about it. Wishing you the coziest November possible with lots of excellent books to read. If you're keen to keep hanging out and talking books with me, here is a link to my playlist of reading journal videos from all the way through 2025, as well as a link to a video that YouTube has magically chosen just for you.